Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, we are going to stick to Japan and we're going to have a look at a beer from another brewery that I've never tried anything from before. Now, these guys are another relatively new addition to the Japanese beer scene and they've built up a very good reputation for themselves here in the Kansai region of Japan, and they're starting to spread a little bit further afield. But a lot of people have been telling me that I need to check out this brewery, so finally we have a chance. But the beer itself, from what I understand, is one of their more kind of regular releases. It is a style that I very much enjoy and one that has been regaining a little bit of lost popularity in recent times as well, I have to say. So needless to say, I'm very curious to see what this beer is going to have in store for us. It's always nice to introduce new Japanese breweries to you here on the channel as well. So hopefully this is another good beer. Hopefully it makes for an interesting review, and as always, I hope that you guys watching enjoy my take on this one as well. So yeah, for this review then, we are going to head a little bit south of me here in Osaka to Wakayama Prefecture. We're going to go to what I guess you could call the western end of the prefecture, a little bit to the south of Wakayama City, to a place called Aridagawa. So that place is meant to be very nice, but it's also home to Nomcraft Brewing. So this particular beer is called Cactus Cowboy. It comes in at 6.5% ABV, and this one is a West Coast IPA. So yeah, this I think could be really interesting. This is yet another beer that I picked up from the wonderful craft beer based Mother Tree in Umeda. They've got a great selection of Japanese stuff from across the country, as well as a lot of foreign beers, particularly American, Australian, Canadian, and New Zealand things. So they are definitely worth the visit if you find yourself here in Osaka. And they brew some of their own stuff too, which is improving a lot. It's improving every time that I go there. So do go and check them out actually. Hopefully we can get an out and about video there at some point in the fairly near future, in one of my next trips to Japan. But yeah, 6.5% West Coast IPA, this one from Nomcraft Brewing in Wakayama. Let's crack on and see what the beer has in store for us. So, as always with my reviews, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting though, just fast forward. All the usual links can be found in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my future reviews that I'll do from Nomcraft Brewing. This is the very first time I'm trying one of their beers, as I mentioned, but hopefully not the last. There's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The support that you give is massively appreciated, and remember, you can go into the channel homepage and search for beer using the geography tagging system. So just go in there, use the little search bar, put in your hometown, state, county, province, whatever you like. If I've reviewed beers from the area that you search for, they will pop up. Failing that, you can check out the playlist of beers from different countries. You'll find this one in the Japanese playlist along with a number of other things, and that will no doubt continue to be added to over the next wee while. And make sure you check out the playlist of beers from other countries as well, because there are some very interesting things on the channel these days. But yeah, let's go on to my brewery notes then, and I'll tell you a wee bit about Nomcraft Brewing for the first time. So Nomcraft Brewing, as I've mentioned to you already, are based in Aridagawa, and the company was founded back in 2019 by a consortium of local investors. But two of the important guys in the startup stage of the brewery are the Americans Adam Barron and Ben Emrich. So Adam originally studied communications in Chicago in Illinois over in the US, which is a very good beer city if you don't know. But upon his graduation, he decided to head to Japan in 2011 to work as an English teacher, and it was there that he befriended Ben. So Ben was quite a big craft beer enthusiast and a fellow English teacher, but together they would go and explore the craft beer bars of Osaka and the Kansai region more widely, and they were attending the festivals that were at the time really just kind of starting to gain some traction. But after a few years, they began to wonder if they could create their own business out of their passion for craft beer, and they pondered the idea of a bar before settling on planning their own brewery. But after a while, they quit their English teaching jobs and then headed back to the US in 2017 to build a strategy and gain some experience in the industry. So Adam earned his qualification as a certified Cicerone and worked in a number of tap rooms around Chicago, while Ben returned to his hometown of Portland over in Oregon on the US West Coast to hone his home brewing skills and gain some experience brewing with some of the numerous local breweries there. But apparently Ben had a chance encounter while he was still in Japan with members of the Aridagawa Machizukuri, which is the town economic development council, I think is the best translation of that. But this was at a Portland fair held at the Hanshin department store in Osaka. But these guys apparently had been looking at Portland as a case study for how to develop a local economy and attract outside visitors. And apparently they had the slogan, keep Aridagawa weird. But of course this encounter led to the customary exchange of business cards, which you very often get in Japan, and Ben and Adam later reached out to these guys to inquire about grants for startup companies in the local area, and things kind of took off from there. So Morimoto-san from the council directed their attention toward a dormant nursery school site which they had actually earmarked for a craft beer tap room. But they suggested to Adam and Ben that they could come to Wakayama and run a brewery in Aridagawa, and then this really got everything. This really got the ball rolling. But during this kind of stage of video calls and stuff like this, Takumi Kaneko came into the fold. So he's originally from Aichi Prefecture, Nagoya type area, and he met some of the guys from the council while he was backpacking the world. He was in Portland in Oregon, and they were over there investigating as well. But this encounter prompted him to visit Aridagawa, and apparently he started working picking tangerines and then building furniture in Morimoto's workshop. But his English skills saw him added to the team as an occasional brewer and also the creative marketer, which he still does today for Nomcraft. But another addition to the team during the planning stage was Gareth Williams, who I think is he's from the UK, I think he might be Welsh, but he was a long-term resident of the area and often attended the development council meetings, and his children apparently once attended this local nursery school in which the brewery is based. But he participated in the building of the brewery and eventually became the sales representative of the company, and by 2019 Ben and Adam were back in Japan with the operational brewery. So the equipment was apparently acquired from a brewery up in Iwate Prefecture in the Tohoku region, and those guys gave them some brewer-led guidance of the equipment before it was shipped down to Wakayama, and they also received a lot of help from the local Kansai brewing community to get the brewery up and running. But the brewery debuted its beers, can't say that word, the brewery debuted its beers at the 2019 Craft Beer Live Festival in Osaka, but the COVID pandemic, unfortunately, or fortunately for us I guess, forced them to change their focus from keg beer over to bottles and cans, and that's the direction they've been taking since then. Later in 2022, Ben left the company to join Open Air Brewing in Kobe, and so Adam stepped into the role as head brewer, and then Junya Nakamura joined the brewing team. But over the last few years, they've continued to develop new recipes and build up their sales and distribution. They've also experimented a little bit with gins and seltzers, and next door to the brewery is the Golden River Tap Room and Restaurant, which shares a common investor with the brewery, and so they serve a number of their beers. But as of July 2024, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced 195 different kinds of beer according to Untappd, and a lot of people have said to me that this brewery are becoming quite well known for their IPAs. So yeah, that is everything I can really tell you about Nomcraft Brewing for the moment. If you want to learn more about these guys, you can check out the brewery website, you can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn a little bit more about all the different beers that these guys have done. So yeah, that's that. A lot of that information came from a Japan Beer Times article that I read, and it was really nicely written, I have to say. So yeah, I'll try and remember to put the link to that in the video description for you below as well. But if you search Japan Beer Times and Nomcraft, I'm sure it will pop up if I do happen to forget. But yeah, let's go on and have a little look at the beer itself. So I'll just let you have a wee look at the artwork on this one before we open up. There you can see the Cactus Cowboy there himself, and of course you've got that on the side of the label there too. But this, I think, is this a 330 or a 350? No, 350 milliliter can, this one, which is quite common in Japan actually. Plain silver top on the can there as well. But yeah, I have to say, I do like this one. The artwork that Nomcraft use is pretty simple, but it's kind of distinctly Japanese, I would say, as well. You won't find this kind of style of animation, I guess, in a lot of other places, unless you know, people are copying Japanese animation all the time these days because it is so popular, right enough. But yeah, like we said earlier, this one is a West Coast IPA, 6.5% ABV. The hops in this one are Falconer's Flight, Citra, Comet, and Nugget. Falconer's Flight, from what I remember, is a mixture of different sea hops like Centennial and Cascade and Chinook and stuff like that. Citra, of course, we know very well, 14% alpha acid, American hop. It gives you that lovely big sort of mango character, but also a bit of grapefruit and a bit of kind of gooseberry lychee type character and lemon lime in a West Coast IPA. Comet is an interesting one. It's quite old school. It gives you like 12% alpha acid and like grapefruit and sort of orangey notes. And Nugget, I think Nugget's a bit lower, maybe like 10% alpha acid if I remember rightly, and it has this kind of woody sort of character to it. So this could be a really interesting one actually. I'm very, very curious to see what this has in store for us. But yeah, Cactus Cowboy from Nomcraft in Aridagawa, Wakayama. Let's get this guy out into the glass and see what it's all about. I'm very curious about this one. So yeah, when it comes to the West Coast IPAs, for me, these beers can lean two ways. They can be a little bit more kind of bready and biscuity, such as the Russian River, Pliny the Elder, or they can be a little bit more oily and caramelly, such as the Torpedo from Sierra Nevada as well. So for me, yeah, those are the two kind of ends of the West Coast IPA spectrum. And I think both. You just need to see how the beer turns out, in all honesty. But yeah, you can see with this one, it's actually got a little bit of natural haze to it, so obviously it's unfiltered. But yeah, you can see this beer has poured with about a finger of, I would say, kind of cream coloured head there. One of my moustache hairs has escaped into the head there. We'll pull that out. But yeah, it looks pretty nice. You can see medium-sized bubbles on the surface of the liquid and a few kind of foamier ones further up that you go. But yeah, a lovely bit of, I'd say the colour of this one, this almost looks a bit more like a kind of New England IPA, in honesty, with the level of haze that it's got. But I would say this has got like a very, very light kind of amber tint to it. Remember, the colour of your beer depends on a few things. One, the type of malts that you use. This goes a long way to determining your EBC rating. Two, length of your wort boil is also going to play a role, because the longer you boil the wort, the more the sugar is caramelised, and thus you get a darker colour of beer. Any barrel aging that you do or adjuncts you put into the beer will affect its colour as well. But yeah, this is a very light amber colour, this one. Not too much in the way of visible carbonation, but yeah, the colour of this one is pretty impressive. But like I say, it's got quite a bit of natural haze to it, this one, I have to say. So that's really interesting. Maybe there's a little bit of wheat in the malt base with this one. I mean, most West Coast IPAs use only barley malt, but it's not unheard of to use like a little touch of oat or a little touch of wheat. New England IPAs, of course, have a lot more wheat and oat, which is what gives them the haziness. But yeah, pretty sure Sculpin from Ballast Point had a bit of wheat in it actually. But all in all, as I say, a bit surprised at how hazy this West Coast IPA is, in honesty. But yeah, it looks like a modern IPA. So yeah, I don't know if we really need to say anything else about the appearance. The only other thing to add would be that the head has kind of dissipated a little bit, and it's just leaving a nice kind of thin foamy layer there. But yeah, let's take a look at the nose on this one then and see what it's all about. I'm very, very curious about this beer. Yeah, that's pretty good. That does smell nice. I actually bought this one on my last, I should point that out as well, I bought this one on my last trip to Japan in April, so this one isn't in its freshest condition, but West Coast IPAs will hold up quite well, and you can tell from the aroma this one is holding up quite well. And I did try, no I didn't, oh no, that wasn't Nomcraft, sorry, talking rubbish. But yeah, I think these guys are supposed to be very good in this style, but this one's giving you everything you would want from the, it's giving you everything you would want from a West Coast IPA. You've got that nice big green component in there, you've got a little bit of breadiness, you have got that wee bit of biscuity character. It is a more bready, biscuity leaning West Coast IPA, you can tell that right away, and you've got some of the nice fruity notes in there as well, a nice oily fruity character. So yeah, let's just try and break the aroma of this beer down a little bit and describe it for you more in depth. So the backbone of the beer, you absolutely have a little bit of that kind of fresh, white bready bread crust coming out of this one. Like a kind of hedgehog roll or something like that. There's certainly a wee bit of a woody and kind of crackery character with this one. That's obviously going to be assisted by the nugget in this one. So yeah, you have got that little bit of woody character to the beer, a little bit of kind of Jacob's cream cracker as well. And on top of that, like I said, you've got some really nice, you've got a little bit of that kind of wholemeal brown bread. Yeah, a little bit of wholemeal brown bread in there, and you've also got, you certainly have some more bright fresh white bread. I think it's European malt in this one because it's got a little bit more kind of dryness to it. American malt is a little bit more kind of oily, I would say, in its aroma. So yeah, pretty sure it's German malt that's in this one, because yeah, bit of kind of sweet but slightly dry wholemeal brown bread, white bread above that, and then yeah, you start to get the kind of brown sugars out of this one. So nice little bit of McVitie's digestive biscuit in there, sweet oily caramel. Yeah, it's kind of straight, it's very, very straight up, this one actually, which I do, which I have to say I do quite appreciate. Yeah, bit of McVitie's digestive biscuit, bit of oily caramel in there, wee bit of toasty brown sugar as well, and the mix of breads. I think it smells pretty great actually. So yeah, all in all, I think the way this one goes together on the malty side of things is quite nice. The yeasty character at the back of the nose is a little bit woody and a little bit more kind of brown bready leaning, I would say. So yeah, all in all, nice aroma from that perspective. Now when it comes to the green component, this one is quite interesting. I'm getting a lot of that woodiness from the nugget in this one, which is quite interesting. There's a little bit of herbal character in there too, but there's also there is a little touch of earthiness, nice little bit of pine resin sitting underneath it, and then yeah, you've got that I would say yeah, you've got a little bit of that kind of, there's more grassiness to it. I think the more you smell of this one, the more it leans toward that kind of slightly zesty like freshly cut grass type vibe. So that's interesting too. But yeah, I can't get over how much woodiness there is to this. That's quite interesting. I've not had nugget come out of the. I've not had nugget for quite a long time actually, and that woodiness and the herbal character is really sticking out to me. So yeah, interesting stuff. But on the fruity side of things, it's kind of what you'd expect from Citra. In all honesty, I think the Citras and probably to a degree the Comet as well are the ones giving you most of the fruity esters out of the beer. So yeah, you have got a little touch of that grapefruit in there, but there's some really nice kind of there's some really lovely like juicy mangoes in there. You've got a little bit of passion fruit and wee bits of apricot and stuff like that as well. But yeah, the mango and the passion, yeah, the oily mango from the Citra is really sticking out of this one for me. As I say, a little bit of apricot, a little bit of kind of pineapple in there, and yeah, the way that that goes together, I think, is really very, very nice. But yeah, you do get a little bit of that gooseberry lychee sort of thing out of the Citra as well, I would say. I'm not getting so much of the orangey character, which you would normally find from Comet. Maybe just a little bit, especially when you sugar it up. Yeah, you do get that more gooseberry, but more of a lychee actually than a gooseberry. And there's a wee touch of a limey character in there as well, which I think is quite interesting. So yeah, I think in all honesty, we've covered as much as we can in terms of the aroma. We've covered as much as we can in terms of the aroma with this particular beer, but I think this is going to be good. I'm very, very curious about this one. As I always say, take a bit of time to enjoy the aroma of the beer before you get stuck in. But let's have a taste of this and see how we go. So this one is the Cactus Cowboy at 6.5% West Coast IPA from Nomcraft Brewing in Aridagawa, Wakayama here in Japan. Let's get stuck in. Slange, skål, cheers, kanpai. Ooh, that's really nice actually. Very kind of light and easy to drink, but at the same time, it's got quite a bit of flavour to it. I will say that. That is good. thumbs up to the guys at Nomcraft for this. If all of their beers are like this, then you know you can kind of see why they're getting a lot of praise. So this one, it's definitely more of a kind of bready, biscuity leaning. Yeah, definitely more of a kind of bready, biscuity leaning West Coast IPA, that's for sure. I think if it was, you know, a double IPA, you know, around the 8% mark or something like that, it probably would have a little bit more kind of caramelly note to it, in honesty. But yeah, I think they've done a nice job with this, as I say. So you've got nice breadiness in there, you've got a little bit of the sweetness, good green component to it as well, but not madly bitter, I would say. And yeah, you've got that nice kind of oily, fruity character to it as well. But very easy to drink beer, this one. This would be very nice on tap, I'm sure. But let's just break the flavour down then and describe it for you a wee bit more in depth, as we always do. So, the middle third of your palate then, the backbone of the beer is that fresh, it's that fresh wholemeal, it's a mix of like wholemeal and white hedgehog bready bread crust in there. That's what I'm really getting out of this one. As you go further forward on that middle third of your palate, you can feel there's a bit more of a woody character in there, and then you've just got the kind of Jacob's cream crackery notes coming out from that as well. But yeah, the way that goes together is really, really nice. The backbone of the beer, it does give you a little bit of dryness into the aftertaste, which I like. But yeah, above the cracker layer, you get that wholemeal, you get that kind of wholemeal brown bready bread crust in there. And yeah, the way that the whole, not the bread crust, the wholemeal brown bready character is quite interesting because it does sweeten up into the aftertaste, but it also becomes a little bit drier as well. So yeah, the wholemeal brown bready characters in there. Then you've got the softer white bready note above that, which is interesting. There is a slightly denser bready character to this one as well, which makes me wonder, the sort of denser white bready character above that, which makes me wonder if there is a little bit more of a, yeah, that does make me wonder if there's a little bit more of a wheaty note in this one. So yeah, I think there maybe will be a little touch of wheat in this actually. But anyway, and that would explain the kind of haziness of the beer as well. But yeah, on top of that white bready character, you start to get a slightly like toasty, bread and buttery type character, like a very slight toasty brown sugar. And then in the dead center of your palate, you can feel that little circle there. So underneath you have maybe a slightly kind of Werther's Original butter candy, butterscotchy flavour, and then in the dead centre of your tongue you have the more kind of straight up caramel, that sweet caramelly note, which is of course the boozy side of the beer. Yeah, so for me, the kind of boozy side of the beer is it does give you a little bit of booziness into the aftertaste, and you do want a little bit of that from a West Coast IPA, and also you do want a little bit of that lingering sweetness there. But this beer is very, very smooth in that sense. I will say though that on top of those brown sugary notes, you do get a little bit of a biscuity character to it. But yeah, all in all, I think this one goes together really, really nicely from that perspective. But yeah, I think we've covered the middle third of your palate now. So let's go to the back third of your palate. As I've often said, the back third of your palate is going to give you very similar flavours to the the middle third of your palate, just at different intensities. So yeah, the border region between middle and back third of your palate, you get a nice little bit of bready build up in there. You can feel the brown bread in the base, the white bread on top, and what I suspect is a little touch of wheat and bitiness there above that. But the base of the back third of your palate is of course the bread crusty character again, which feels a little bit drier. You've got a wee bit of that crackery note sitting in there too. Then yeah, the wholemeal brown bready layers there, which is a little bit lighter, taller and more airy, very slightly drier than the middle third of your palate too. The same can be said of the white bready layer, which is sitting above that. And as I say, you get a little bit of a more dense bready character on top of that, which feels a little bit bitey. And as I say, that really makes me think. It really does make me think that it's more like wheaty in that sense. I do think it's got a little bit of a more kind of wheaty character to it. So yeah, above that, of course, you start to get the yeasty side of the beer. So let's have a little look at the yeasty character coming out of this one. Yeah, yeasty side of this beer is quite nice. I mean, I'd say the centre of the yeasty character for me always comes out on the top of that back third of the palate. You've got this kind of more dense wholemeal brown bready character in the middle, and then it's a bit of a more kind of grainy brown bread around the edge. And then, as I say, you've got a bit more of that kind of bread crusty type note. Yeah, you've got a bit more of a kind of bread crusty character coming out of that one too. But yeah, the way that all kind of pieces together, the yeasty character gives you a wee bit of a more kind of grainy brown bready sort of thing into the aftertaste as well, which is quite nice. It's certainly not the sweetest of West Coast IPAs I've come across. This one's definitely got a bit more kind of breadiness to it, I would say. But definitely back third of your palate, you can feel the flavour is taller. Then as you move further forward into the middle third of your tongue, it just kind of condenses down and squashes together that little bit more. But yeah, all in all, I do like how that one, this pieces together. So let's go on to the green component of the beer then. I will say that this beer actually builds a little bit of pine resinous character the further into the aftertaste you go. I wasn't getting much of that initially, but the bitterness in this beer does build up a little bit. In the back corners of the palate, you've certainly got a little touch of earthiness in there. And as you move further forward, you've got a little bit of a kind of herbal character as well. And then as you push further and further forward from that, there's a lovely little bit of like floral aromaticity and a little touch spicy. But then yeah, around the front curve of the tongue, the beer is definitely lighter and more grassy, and it's got a slight zestiness to it as well. So yeah, the way that this beer goes together, I think, is really, really nice. So that gets a big thumbs up from me. Yeah, I like that with this one. So let's have a little look at the front third of your palate then and the fruity side of the beer. So the border region between front third and middle third of your palate, you get that nice little bit of bready build up in there. You can feel the brown bread in the base, the white bread on top, and then the wee bit of wheaty character in there too. And then yeah, the base of that front third of your palate, lovely little bit of bread crust in there. Jacob's kind of cream cracker, of course, the brown bread, the white bread, and then the more dense wheaty note. And then you get that nice oily bubble where the juicy fruity esters roll their way out of the beer. As I say, yeah, I really do get that woody thing. The nugget is showing itself quite a lot in this beer, I would say. It's kind of interesting. But yeah, let's look at the fruity side of the beer then, and that'll round off the tasting section. Yeah, so for me, the beer actually does show a wee bit more of an orangey character in the flavour than it did in the aroma. We can safely say that. Yeah, so at the back of that front third of your palate, there's a bit of the stronger grapefruit there, and with Comet and Citra both involved in this one, you'd kind of expect that. As you move further forward, there's maybe you start to get a more kind of juicy mangoey note out of this one, and the softer passion fruit sits underneath that as well. There's maybe tiny little bits of apricot and pineapple and stuff as you reach the dead centre of that front third of your palate. But then yeah, as you move into the kind of front half, of that front third of your palate, you start to get a little bit more of you do start to get a little bit more of kind of juicy orangey note out of this one, but you can feel that bit of lychee character from Citra in there as well. And as you reach the kind of front tip of your tongue, you've got a more kind of limey note to it as well. So yeah, all in all, the fruity side of this beer is quite interesting actually. I really do like how this one goes together. It gets a big thumbs up from me. So yeah, I don't think we need to say anything more about the actual flavour of the beer. So let's round off the whole review then with a wee look at the mouthfeel. As I said earlier, this beer is actually quite light and quite drinkable, and you'll very often find that with Japanese beers. You know, to the Japanese, beer is something that should be light, it should be drinkable, and it should feel kind of clean. So quite often with Japanese beers, lighter in their mouthfeel, but still packed full of flavour. But yeah, for me, this beer is mid-bodied, it's right in the middle of the spectrum. The carbonation has a little bit of crispness to it, but it mainly smoothens the beer out, I would say. In terms of your IBU count in this one, I think this is maybe about 60 or 70 IBUs. I don't think this is a full, 80, 90 IBU thing, but it does build little bit into the aftertaste, the bitterness there. The malty side of things, you've got a nice little bit of dryness underneath, the smoothness in the middle, and a bit of a drier sweetness on top. And then, yeah, you've got a good little bit of fruity character sitting above. You've got a good little bit of fruity character to this one as well. It's more of an oily fruity character. It has a wee bit of that stronger grapefruity note into the aftertaste, but yeah, it does sweeten up. It has quite a little bit of sweetness to it as well. So a good balance between tropical and more citrusy fruits in this beer, I would say. But all in all, a very, very positive first impression of Nomcraft from this beer. So yeah, definitely need to try a few more of their beers, of course. But yeah, I think we can leave it at that for this one. This was the Cactus Cowboy, a 6.5% West Coast IPA from Nomcraft Brewing in Aridagawa in Wakayama Prefecture here in the Kansai region of Japan. So once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comments section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Nomcraft Brewing as well, and we will no doubt return to these guys again at some point in the fairly near future. But thanks for watching. Check out my social media, check out their social media, and do make sure you check out my friend Nevitt over at Japanese Craft Beer Reviews, because I'm sure he's probably had a look at a few of these things too. Till the next time, Slange it, Skull, cheers, and I'll catch you guys in the next review. Ciao just now.